This is Palace House at Bewley, home of Lord Montague and his family. And this was his father's car. It's the 1925 Rolls Royce Phantom 1, the car that was made to replace the enormously successful Silver Ghost. And it's my great privilege to be driving it today. Swanning around on a sunny spring afternoon in an open-top Rolls Royce is all very well and highly enjoyable, but this is no ordinary Rolls Royce, as Michael Ware, director of the National Motor Museum Trust, was keen to point out. Michael, what can you tell me about this car then?
Well, this was a car that was owned by Lord Montague's father, and when he died in 1929, this family sold it. And it got lost. Obviously, people weren't very interested at that time in what was happening to old cars. Now, when the present Lord Montague started the Montague Motor Museum in 1952, one of the things he was keen to do was to find his father's old car. And after quite a lot of research, he discovered that it still existed, but the body had been taken off it and had been cut right down, and it was on a playing field in Somerset, on a Somerset school, being used to tow a set of gang mowers. And he bought it and had it restored as you see it today. He then discovered some other history of it, that during the war, this is when the body was actually taken off it, and they had a naffy wagon built on it, a naffy refreshment wagon built on it. They were not quite certain where it went, whether it was only used in this country or whether it went abroad. And presumably after the war the naffy wagon was taken off, and that's when it got bought by the school just to act as a, if you like, as a tractor. We sent it, Lord Montague then sent it to Leslie Willis, a retired coach builder, and the coachwork you see on it today is an almost exact replica of the coachwork, the Barker coachwork with which it was originally built.
So although it's got a very careful owner now, you couldn't say it's a one careful owner car, could you?
No, you couldn't. No, I think it had a hell of a time on the playing fields.
Good. Well, I'm certainly enjoying driving it, so if you'll excuse me, I want to get straight back to it now.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Right.
I bet that school's gardener couldn't believe his luck when they gave him this to cut the grass with. There can be no denying, though, that it is a most elegant and restrained vehicle, and it really is a delight to drive, even if it's a touch heavy at slow speeds. Progress up the Chestnut Avenue at Bewley is almost regal, and its smooth, torquey engine is a joy to pilot. However, all good things and drives come to an end, and this car belongs in the cosseting environment of the museum. There, a chance to look in wonder at the 6-cylinder, 7.6 litre single carburettor engine capable of delivering approximately 100 brake horsepower and a top speed of between 75 and 80 miles an hour. This Rolls Royce really is a very special car, and one richly deserving of a place in the nation's treasure chest of motoring icons.
Try, if you will, to categorise Honda as a car manufacturer. What do they specialise in making? Look around and you might think it's small and rather faceless family hatchbacks. But then again, they do make the Integra and now the Accord Type R, both full-on nutter machines. But there is a common factor here. Honda cars are discreet. It's not until you drive the Integra Type R do you realise what it's all about. Look at it and it's just an ordinary hatch with a spoiler stuck on the back. And then there's the NSX, a car that takes being understated to the point of being, well, not very funny at all, really. Who wants to have a supercar that can outgun a Ferrari but looks like a Honda? And now it looks as though Honda's new baby is about to do to the two-seater roadster market what the NSX did to the supercar market. Nothing. The Honda S2000 isn't about to set anyone's knees a-trembling on looks alone. An MX-5 is cuter, a Porsche Boxster more beautiful, and a BMW Z3 more sort of snarly. But it does have something. The metal looks like fabric stretched tautly over shapes, defined by this big boxy grille at the front, these slanty headlights and these big bulgy wheel arches. It's distinctive, but understated. Honda, it seems, have taken the concept of the small two-seater roadster and they've got all sensible about it. They've tried to make it work as a car. They wanted to keep to a 2-litre 4-cylinder engine because it's light and compact and, thanks to the VTEC system, very high revving. Also, being so compact, that means Honda could mount it a long way back under that long bonnet at the front. And that gives it the 50-50 weight distribution that fans of mid-engine supercars will tell you is what driving pleasure is all about. So we have here a rear-wheel driven 2-seater open-top roadster with a 50-50 weight distribution and an engine that will happily rev to 9,000. Well, you just know it's got to be fun. And then they get really clever. By a combination of technical virtuosity and, I suspect, voodoo, Honda have managed to squeeze an incredible 240 brake horsepower out of that 2-litre 4-cylinder engine. Come on, chaps. That really isn't playing the game. I mean, a chap could hurt himself. Isn't that rather missing the point, though? We should know we're British and we've been blatting around in little two-seaters for decades. And we know that they should be cramped, unreliable and outpaced by large family cars, but always beautiful and dashing. So what's all this talk of reliability, performance, handling? Come on, chaps, play the game. Mazda may have made their MX-5 indestructible, but it's certainly not overpowerful. And the Z3 in anything other than M-Tech form is just pure pose value. Honda then have decided to make their baby two-seater work in all departments. And then there's the price. Well, like anything else, the two-seater Roadster has gone up in price over the years. From being just a thing for a young gadabout to be seen spinning around town, it's become a plaything for the fat 50-something corporate gladiators to escape in at the weekend. At a shade under 28 grand, the S2000 is about 6,000 cheaper than your Porsche Boxster, but it outperforms it. People regularly spec up their Z3s until they cost around this, and the only ones cheaper are the Mazda MX-5 and Fiat Barchetta, neither of which are even in the same league when it comes to performance. Perhaps the only disappointment for the S2000 is the interior, which, once you get past the racy red leather sports seats and the extra deep transmission tunnel, which does give the car extra stiffness, it's all a bit bland, really. Some of the switchgear, though very sturdy, is a little on the flaky side, and I'm still not a big fan of the digital dash. And that exterior, I've come to like it. It's taut, purposeful and stylish, and I'm sorry for saying that it wasn't. It may take a while to realise it, but I think it looks fantastic. But it is very comfortable in here. And like the rest of the car, it feels very substantial and very well put together. But it's not for sitting around and gawping at. The idea is you're supposed to take it out, drive it, enjoy it, drive it quite fast. Now, hold on a minute. I've found a fault. Everything is not rosy after all, and it's this. You've pulled up to some beauty spot with a lady in your life, look out at the view, and the moment arrives and you lean across, darling, I wonder if I might steal a kiss, and is it me or is it raining? Oh! It's the headlamp washer, the buttons, and you... It's not cool. It's not cool at all. Quite embarrassing. There is passion in the S2000, and it starts here with this button. It's big, it's red, and as it says, it starts the engine. And it's absolute proof that Honda are just a little bit proud of what they've done with this car. And justifiably so. They've taken the concept of the small two-seater roadster by the scruff of the neck and shaken it till its goggles fell off. They've produced a car that is tauter, stronger and faster than anything else in the class, and it does it all for less than anything else in the class. It still may not be a cheap toy, but it's a damn good one.
Ever imagined a family car that gets you more attention than a Ferrari supercar? Impossible? Well, meet the Multipla. The instant reaction to Fiat's new Multipla is shocking, weird, wacky, and ugly. It is a car that is absolutely impossible to ignore, and believe me, nobody does.
Well, I saw it as I pulled onto the car park here from the outside, and I thought it was rather ugly looking, particularly from the front. It was a very unusual shaped, also like a fold of flesh over the bonnet, a bit like a boxer dog from the front. The interior is very impressive. There's loads of space. I particularly like the central pod here. Does that? I don't suppose that turns to face this way at all, does it?
No, it doesn't move. It's actually.
Yeah, it's the gear stick here, leaving all the space there in the centre of the floor is a nice touch as well.
I think it will take off because the seats are very, very comfortable, considering it's a six-seater car. Because sometimes if you sat in the back of, like, my Peugeot saloon, and there's three of you, you're all bunched up together, but you've got 3 actual seats in the back and 3 in the front. So I think it will take off for a family car.
Fiat believe we're changing the way that we look at cars. We're no longer apparently looking at them as style objects or status symbols. They actually say that what we're looking for now is an everyday tool that's functional, but also gives you plenty of scope for pleasure. So having accepted that the whole world will be looking at you, what's it actually like to drive? First impressions are very lively. And that's an even bigger impression when you realise it's a 1.9 diesel. Fiat have spent an awful lot of time on soundproofing on the Multipla, and it shows. This is a very quiet vehicle. As soon as you've got it running, you would not believe you were in a diesel. One of the key unusual areas, of course, is the gear stick here mounted on the dash. That's because of the 3-seat configuration, so you've got plenty of room for the extra passenger in the front. And the other thing that strikes you is how airy the cabin is and how great the visibility is. You've got huge sweeping windows to the front and to the side. Although I found one problem with the window over the days I was driving, it collects flies like nothing you've ever seen. The other thing that you quickly notice is how easy and relaxing the Multipla is to drive. The controls, they look a bit bizarre when you first see them here. This huge pod sticking out, but they're actually very functional. You've got one main speedometer straight just to the right of you here, which has got everything you need on it. All the dials are easy to hand, to touch, and it really is a very practical machine. The other great thing about the Multipla is it's what we call in the trade a grower. Everyone who's seen it, after the initial gasp and shock and saying that's terrible, or God, what does that look like? By the end of a journey in it, they'll love it. I had one friend, a New Zealand aficionado of cars, and he thought it was dreadful at first. At the end of the day, he was raving about it. How comfortable it was, how he liked the very fresh, different interior. Fiat are aiming the Multipla directly at Renault's hugely successful Scenic in the mini people carrier sector. So how practical is it? 6 seats, 3 in the front, 3 in the back. The middle one in the front is excellent because it actually eases just back from the driver and the other passenger, so you don't have any clash with the driver. It also folds down and turns into a mini table if there's no passenger, which is, again, very functional. In the back, all 3 seats will actually come out. You can also lay all 3 of them flat, and they also can move forward slightly so that you can have the option of more luggage space or more passenger space.
It seems to be very versatile. The 3 seats across the front as opposed to just a bench seat or whatever, particularly like this one with folding down to provide a table and drink space if you've got kiddies in the back. It's for the side. It doesn't look that large from the outside, but see, it can quite easily fit 6 people inside. It should be. I'd love to have a go, any chance, you know.
So the million-dollar question: will it sell? Well, it doesn't come on sale in the UK until January of next year, but it's been on sale for 3 months in Italy and 2 other countries in Europe, and Fiat have sold 30,000. Now, the fact that Fiat didn't expect to sell any more than 40,000 in an entire year confirms maybe that they were as unsure as the rest of us as to just how well such an extreme vehicle would sell. But clearly, it's got an awful lot of potential, and the public appear, if not exactly to love it, to be intrigued enough to buy it.
In a world that's packed with every kind of car you can imagine, Honda have decided to invent a new one for us. They've called it the HRV. So what exactly is it? Take 2 parts compact city car, add an equal measure of sports utility vehicle, throw in a large pinch of hatchback, estate and 4-wheel drive. Blend well and garnish with plenty of accessories. There you have it, Honda's recipe for creating a brand new concept of vehicle that they hope will send the youngsters wild. Yes, Honda have realised that not many young people buy their cars, so they're aiming the HRV at the dinkies. Double income, no kids yet, or the sinkies, just the same but only 1 income. Well, tempted or not, what do you actually get for your money? Well, this is the only version of the HRV on sale yet. It's the 1.6 and it comes with 4-wheel drive. Now, this 1.6 engine is extremely economical and also produces very low emissions. It's just under 14 grand and you get a choice of manual or a CVT, which is Honda's automatic gearbox. The HRV comes with the high levels of spec that we know and we love in a Honda. Things like power steering, air conditioning, dual airbags and a full electrics package all come as standard on this vehicle. Spending some time in the HRV makes you realise that it is actually a very clever optical illusion. Now, it certainly outside doesn't have the on-road presence of one of those huge off-roaders, but once you get inside you really do feel like you could be in a 4x4. There are very clever design touches, things like the open windows that give you a great commanding view on the road. And take a look at these wing mirrors, they're absolutely huge. They really are the kind of thing you'd find in a much larger vehicle. Now, because it isn't a true 4x4, that of course benefits the on-road handling and the ride. It feels great, you feel like you could be in a car. The automatic CVT gearbox, which features in this version, is great. It's really nice and smooth. The automatic fans and the grannies out there are going to love it, but it isn't going to excite a real motoring enthusiast. But don't worry, because there's plenty more real technology featured with some very impressive names. Things like multimatic transmission, prismatic control, electronic brake force distribution and dual pump 4-wheel drive. Now, the dual pump is actually a very clever system. It's an intelligent 4-wheel drive. It only sends the power through to the rear wheels as well when it's absolutely necessary. Now, the only problem I can see is that only 93% of off-roaders actually go off-road. So I don't know if the 4x4 system in this vehicle will see a lot of action. And again, as usual in a Honda, there are plenty of safety features packed in. Things like G-force control technology and a special kind of body shell that means should you inadvertently hit a few pedestrians, they won't get hurt quite as bad as they would have done before. Do you know, it's funny, I've been trying all day to find somebody to test that feature out for me. Couldn't find one person willing. Oh well. Those of us familiar with Honda's work, of course, know they're a solid, sensible company who take their technology and their cars very, very seriously. Quite terrifying then to read the word funky in the HRV's press pack. Even more frightening, the words urbane, cool and futuristic. Personally, I reckon the HRV looks less catwalk cool and more tarts handbag. You'll find alloys, flared arches, spoilers, two-tone upholstery, two-tone interior, lots and lots of bright blue dials. Inside there's loads of room for passengers and all their stuff. There are so many cubby holes and storage spaces in this vehicle that you're absolutely guaranteed to forget where you put your sunglasses. Oh well. Now, Honda are one of those companies well known for their technological advances, and they haven't let us down on the HRV. They've come up with something new. The removable ashtray, voila! It simply pops out of its position and can be replaced in any one of the 5 cup holders you'll find in the HRV. Very clever, eh? Without a doubt, the HRV is going to make plenty of new friends. It's quirky, it's great fun to drive, and of course it's a Honda, so everything will work every single day. But I've got to say that although we know we should buy a car that's fun, sensible and extremely reliable, I'm afraid that faint heart never won fair maiden, because what I really want is a car that's bad, that's bold, and that makes my pulse race.